Good morning. Well, we have a lot to do today, so let's get going. If you were caught up with your reading assignments, you've already read the article on the three types of language, but before we go on with the discussion, I want to take a few minutes to compare them. Okay, standard language first. That's language that's comprehended, used, and considered acceptable by most speakers, I mean native speakers. So definitions of words and phrases in standard language, they are found in the dictionary. They can be used in both formal and informal situation settings. And this is important. Standard language is appropriate in both speech and writing. I'd say that all of these characteristics combine to make standard language. Well, let's just say that it's a permanent core of language. That brings us to colloquial language, which is included in dictionaries, but colloquial language is marked, and usually it's a colloquial idiom. So these patterns of colloquial language are understood and used and accepted in informal exchanges and well, people use them in informal situations, but they are not really considered appropriate in formal setting. Did I say that colloquial language is more prevalent in speech than in writing? Well, that's important, and the key point in the article was that the colloquial language becomes so much a part of the culture that at some point it often evolves into standard language. So you can compare an earlier dictionary with a recent dictionary, and that will you can see how some phrases that are marked as colloquial language lose that designation in the later editions of the same dictionary. Okay, so you can see that the colloquial idioms last a long time is remaining popular in colloquial speech, or as I said, it can evolve into standard language and become a permanent part of the language. But that's very different from slang expressions because this is a key point. Slang is usually a temporary phenomenon. It's used by some speakers or groups in informal situations, and they are much more common in speech than they are in writing. Sometimes they are included in a dictionary, but they are always clearly marked as slang. And when you check later edition of the dictionary, quite often the slang expression is no longer included because it's out of style. Now let's consider the three types of language together, and I want you to think of them on a continuum from most to least formal. So if you do that, colloquial language would have to go between the stable elements of the language, and the colloquial language has the potential to become a permanent part of language, but it might not. I think it's interesting that most native speakers will use all three types of language and they'll use them all appropriately without thinking about it. In fact, only a few speakers will be able to analyze their speech and writing using the labels that they also identified in the article. That said, let's get considered. I think it's interesting that most natives will use all three types of language. Them all appropriate with a think about it. In fact, only a few speakers will be have analyzed their speech and writing using the labels that are also identified in the article.